Hey guys, so in light of the recent videos that I've made, I just want to make one thing clear.
No one is safe from the MorganIstKrieg love hammer of justice, brother.
They'll be trying to drink their own sweat to survive, brother.
Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So today I'm going to talk about feminism and why I'm a feminist.
No!
And we're going to start with some definitions. Feminism is a movement for equality between men and women, politically, economically, and socially.
No, it's actually the advocacy of women's rights. Unfortunately, what that movement has become is no longer about equality, but instead is a bunch of idiots that are clanking pans together and screeching about their problems. All the chicks that are screaming and acting like children over the slightest indifferences absolutely disgusts me. And the movement of feminism as a whole has deteriorated to the point where if you don't support authoritarian leftist principles, then you are evil and subhuman. While I'm pretty left-leaning myself, the reason why I and so many others refuse to use this definition of feminism is because feminism has nothing to do with equality anymore. Instead, it's rewarding more rights to women just based on the fact that they're women. As for someone who is in multiple male-dominated realms, I find it absolutely repulsive when I see chicks being put on a pedestal just because they're chicks, instead of looking at what actual skills these chicks have, or more often than not don't have. And I refuse to congratulate men or women because they were born with certain parts or hormones. Hard truths being dropped here, but honestly it has to be said.
If you think that women should be treated the same as men in being allowed to run for office and vote, in getting paid the same amount for the same job, and if you think of women as having equal worth to men and being equally capable as men, then you're a feminist.
One of us, gobble gobble, gobble gobble, one of us.
Women can do, have done, and literally are doing all of these things. We need to focus on more important things, like finding the cure for smallpox. And just because I can do some things better than a dude can, it doesn't mean that I'm a feminist. Feminism has nothing to do with men. Instead, it's forcing everyone to give girls participation trophies. It's fucking stupid.
Earn your stripes, brother. Hell yeah, brother.
I think in general, feminism is a movement that's empowering everyone, men and women, to stop viewing people based upon their gender and like putting them in a box and being like, because you're a woman or because you're a man, you're this, and instead just viewing every single person as a unique individual.
That would be great. Except what it's turned into is a bunch of whiny crybabies that spit venom at you for the slightest infraction. Greatness isn't achievable for everyone, and it's just that simple. However, if you choose to become great, that's what happens when you fight to achieve greatness. People's individual personalities have nothing to do with feminism. And if I'm looking at some of the matriarchs of my own family, who have always been the toughest and strongest people I've ever known, men and women in the memorable past and the not so memorable past have always been able to be who they are. Lest we forget the Bonnie Prince Charlies and the Boudikas of history. I'm not talking about gay rights or trans rights when I'm speaking of this. I'm talking about women's rights in general. But this becomes a projection for a lot of women who wish they were naturally stronger and naturally more dominant, but it really isn't in them to be that way. Instead of bettering themselves, taking stronger stances, and becoming mentally stronger, they attempt to bring everyone to their level instead. It's harder to see any of the feminist arguments actually being about gender, and instead a subconscious projection of their own weaknesses.
Right now, women can vote in every country except for Saudi Arabia and Vatican City.
I like how she tiptoes around the fact that Saudi Arabia's laws against women are due entirely to Islam. I will never understand why people on the hard left defend an ideology that hates them and everything they stand for, especially an ideology that is extremely anti-Semitic and misogynist. Also, no one except cardinals have voting rights in Vatican City. The only time any sort of election is held is when a pope dies or steps down and they have to find a new one.
Something else to think about politically is that there's a massive underrepresentation of women in our government. Women occupy 19.3% of the House seats and only 20% of Senate seats. We've never had a female president, and only 3 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are women. 2 of them were recently added within the past 10 years.
What she fails to mention is that at this point in American history, there are more female elected officials than there ever have been. The fact that you're taking away from the accomplishments of these women because the gender ratio isn't 50-50 is absolutely appalling. The reason why there are more women in politics is due to many different factors, including that most women aren't competitive enough like you have to be elected. Most women tend to be less narcissistic, and therefore feel like they lack the qualifications necessary to run for an office. And even the fact that women react more negatively than men to modern campaign tactics also plays a role. And I'm not even pulling this out of my ass. That's according to the 2012 studies by American University and Loyola Marymount University.
I don't think it's that women don't want to run for office. I think it's just that we're taught growing up that that's not really what women do.
At no point as a little girl did I ever give two flying shits about women's representation in government.
When I was a kid, when I was a little boy, I always wanted to be a dinosaur. I wanted to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex more than anything in the world.
I would understand your point if women weren't allowed to run for an elected position at all. But to say the government is subliminally brainwashing little girls makes me think that you need to learn how to make a decent tinfoil hat. I mean, you can borrow mine. That way they can't use the aliens to read your thoughts.
E.T. Phone home.
The reason that we need feminism is that sexism is something that we're socialized to accept as young children, and we grow up having these preconceived notions about the world and about gender roles that aren't true. And it's this vicious cycle where young girls are not seeing females in these leadership positions as much, and then they think that that's not even an option for them or something that they want to aspire to. And so what feminism does is it kind of comes in and it messes up that cycle of inequality.
Again, this is very much a you problem. Some people are born dominant, some people are not. You and I are perfectly capable of accomplishing anything. The only thing that holds you or I back is ourselves. Especially in American society, which you and I are both a part of. Women are celebrated and encouraged to be a part of anything that they choose to be a part of. What you're asking for is that women get participation trophies because they are women. Because everybody is equal no matter what, even if they don't want to be part of certain fields. Only 1.8% of carpenters are female and no one is up in arms about that, but for some reason the 20% in Congress is way too little. As far as gender roles and what gender actually means, it really has so much more to do with biology and the neurological, chemical, hormonal, and genetic structures in our brains. The biological basis of personality traits is much more engaging and reasonably sound than whining about how oppressed you've been, which you haven't. Oppression is the girls in the Middle East that get their school bombed because they're not allowed to learn how to read. Oppression is falling in love with someone your parents don't agree with and having your face chemically melted off with acid. Or worse, being killed by your family so they maintain their honor. Oppression is forced female circumcision, which, in case you guys were unaware of this lovely practice, it's when little girls get their clitorises surgically removed. Sometimes by doctors, sometimes not. Because if a woman also enjoys sex, she's from the devil himself. When issues like that exist and you're whining about your first world problems and about your feelings, this is why every rationally thinking person disagrees with feminism now.
Economically, so I think that this is the most simple one. It's basically just that females should get paid the same amount as males for doing the same job. In the United States, and I'm sure it's even worse in developing countries and in other parts of the world, we make 78 cents to every dollar that men make.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
Fuck, what was that?
To put this into like a real picture of something that happened, there's a movie that came out called American Hustle, and the movie company is Sony, and they accidentally had their economic tax records leaked out, and we found out that the female leads of the movie, Jennifer Lawrence and Amy Adams, were paid less than their male co-stars, just because they're female.
God, I hate talking about celebrities, but fuck me, I guess we'll do it anyway. So yes, they were paid less. However, Jennifer Lawrence worked half the time that the other actors did. From what I can find, she was on set for 19 days, whereas Christian Bale and Bradley Cooper were on set for 46. I would agree with you if they did the same shit, but they clearly didn't. She also got paid more than Chris Pratt by about $5 to $7 million to star in Passengers, which was also put out by Sony.
Social equality. So this is the biggest one that I see talked about in the media and in the news. It's just the sense that women are viewed as being inferior to men, and you might even think that you don't know anyone who even still believes that or who lives that out.
Yeah, because unless you're hanging out in the bizarre, regressive, right-wing shithouse communities like MGTOW, they don't. Not everything is systematic misogyny. Unless they are religious or incels, the majority of people view everyone as equal.
But just think of our language. When a guy is trying to insult another guy, he'll say, "Don't be a sissy," and then they have a lot of other derogatory words to call men that are equating a man to a woman. That's the worst insult, to call a guy a woman, and it shouldn't be like that.
Okay, so this is stupid. Language and the way we use words implies different things than the original definition. I call people dicks just as fast as I would call them a whiny bitch. I just want to bring attention to how ridiculous her insults are, though, that she's highlighted on this video. There are equal and opposite insults to everything on this page that aren't just derived from degrading women. Another thing, assertiveness isn't being bossy. Not really sure how this comes into play with what you're saying, but demanding people stop playfully insulting their friends by calling them crybaby vaginas when they're being crybaby vaginas is definitely bossy.
Another part of social inequality is that women are constantly objectified. In advertisements, music videos, pornography, women are sexualized, and I don't have a problem with sexualizing women. I understand that we all are sexual beings, but the problem is that women are being sexualized way more than men. Our sex appeal is used as a means to an end, and it's very demeaning because
it comes down to the simple fact that sex sells. All these companies are doing is appealing to our caveman brains. And it works every single time. Men are also subjected to objectification in the modeling world because, let's face it, that's the nature of what modeling is. Same goes for porn. I mean, it's literally made to watch and wank. What bothers me is the people that choose to hypersexualize themselves for professional or social gain. To me, that's more of an issue than worrying about companies using nice bodies to promote their cologne.
Because it's telling men that they are supposed to see women as people, as objects to have sex with, instead of sending a message that men and women are equal sexually, the message that the Bible shows. And we should think of sex as something that makes us equal, that we come together and we're equal in sex, rather than the man being more powerful and the man getting pleasure from the woman. All of that is just very objectifying, and I think that it's horrible, the messages that we send to girls where we have to be sexy.
Oh, you want to talk Bible, huh? This verse is from the exact same book that you're talking about. Women should remain silent in churches. They are not allowed to speak and must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their husbands at home, for it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in church. I don't care if you identify as a feminist, but dude, if you think that Christianity or any Abrahamic religion stands for anything else but the subservient role of women, then you're lying to yourself and everyone else too.
Number 3 is that we're taught that we need a man and that we need to find our value in a relationship with a guy. Embracing feminism doesn't mean you're against relationships or against getting married. I'm a feminist, but I definitely want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to find value in a relationship with a guy. What's wrong is telling women that we need a guy and that we're not worthy or valuable just in finding our value in ourselves and in a relationship with God.
This sounds more to me like you're getting upset that your mom keeps asking you for grandkids. What you're saying is something that is only an issue in religious social groups. Because if you would actually read the thing that your life is supposed to be based around, you'd see that feminism and Christianity are completely opposing ideas. I'm curious to wait and see which one wins at the end.
There can be only one.
Sexual harassment and rape culture is another part of social inequality that is disgusting and terrifying. Rape culture is the idea that no means yes, that when a woman is telling a man, no, I don't want to have sex, or when she hasn't consented verbally that she wants to have sex, he assumes that she definitely wants it.
No, God, I don't want to have to be defining the enemy's stupid catchphrases. But here we go. The actual definition of rape culture is society normalizing sexual abuse, which no one actually does, unless of course they shit out a few good metal riffs. Still salty about that, by the way.
Fuck you! Oh, fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Also, I am a college student, and we were taught coming in as freshmen, we went through this like kind of class on how to not get raped and how at a party to like make sure that we're like looking out for other females, and that's taught so much more than just explaining what consent is to everyone, that verbal yes means yes regarding sex.
Teaching basic safety when alcohol is involved is extremely important. Whether you like it or not, predatory people exist, and they don't care about the yes is yes thing. They are predators. Safety is especially important when you're young, dumb, and invincible, because these predators can and will take advantage of you when you're caught off guard. This doesn't mean that everyone's out to get you. It means carry yourself with common sense to avoid dangerous situations.
Something else that I wanted to end with that is social inequality I experience so often in the United States is the idea that emotions are weak and that having emotions makes you lesser and inferior. I'm someone who has extreme emotions, so I have these big feelings, and I've been called crazy and emotionally bipolar by guys because of my emotions. Every guy I know refers to his ex-girlfriend as crazy, and it's kind of this insult that men and other women pin on women, that if someone has emotions and feels things that they're crazy.
Yeah, because as an adult you should be able to be in control of your emotions and your emotional outbursts. Mental fortitude is something that everyone should have. Fuck me.
Because emotions aren't valued as much as rationality and as much as our minds are valued, it's weakening humanity.
No, coddling to emotions and passionate, uncontrolled outbursts are weakening humanity. Talking about your fifis instead of just dealing with your shit weakens humanity. Why is reason bad?
I think that as a feminist, the best thing you can do is become educated on these topics so that you can talk to more people about them, because right now in the United States, we really need to be working on social equality and using our words and our actions to treat men and women as equal and to accept each other for who we are, not for the stereotypes that we try to pin on each other.
We can gather around the maypole and throw flowers and talk about boys we think are cute and like pillow fight and make like adult Girl Scouts, but like make it mandatory so like every non-gendered child born, which will be all of them, has to grow up and have zero opinions that aren't ours. Swear to fucking God, Timmy, we're sending you to sensitivity training, you little shit.
My point to this whole rant is just be a decent human being. Identity politics are lame and aren't accomplishing anything. It's just causing more division between people. Instead of worrying about who joins your cult, what we should all be concerned with are actual issues and real ways to solve them. That transcends things as stupid as constantly worrying about gender. Greatness resides within and has nothing to do with sex. Just be a badass. Or don't. It's not that hard. There's nothing wrong with being what you are. Male or female or whatever in between. But I will still call out both sides that are clearly and obviously toxic.
Jesus Christ.
Are you sick of having too much time on your hands, brother? We'll waste all of it with me. Subscribe to this channel, brother. What you gonna do when Morgan Mania runs wild on you, brother?